Now, before we get into the presentation, I did want to go over some pretty interesting industry statistics on phishing. So, in the latest IBM cost of a data breach report for 2023, the average cost of a data breach is $4.4 million. And you can see that number is rising over the years and will continue to rise. And you might say, well, that's just big companies, small companies. It's not so high. Well, it's not so high, but it is high. For IBM identified for smaller companies, the average is 3.31 million. And not to downplay it, but the 4.45 million, that is globally. Actually, in the US, the number is really double that in the US. And then depending upon the industry, you get into the healthcare industry, it's like close to $11 million. So it's data breaches, you have to be extremely careful. And it really gets into our next topic, and that is phishing attacks. Phishing attack is the #1 attack vector. And you'll see here, this is according to IBM's latest X-Force Threat Intelligence report, represents 41% of all attacks. And you'll see various types of phishing. Could be a phishing attachment, a link, or even as a service. There are services out there now, like managed services providers and reputable businesses. Well, they do the same for phishing. But in total, it represents about 41%. So phishing, we have to be really concerned about, and you can have the best cybersecurity tools, firewalls, EDRs in place, but you still really need to have the most important firewall, and that's the human firewall to protect your company from threats. And that's why we're really pleased to have KnowBe4 with us today to discuss how you can protect your organization from social engineering and phishing attacks. Now, KnowBe4 is recognized not as one of the leaders, but as the leader in Forrester's Wave report on security awareness and training. Now, I'd like to introduce our main presenter for today's webcast, Jared Macbeth, of course, with KnowBe4. Jared is a veteran Knoster, and he started KnowBe4 in 2016. He's based out of Tampa, Florida. He has worked with thousands of KnowBe4 customers and partners to help protect their organizations against the ongoing threats from the social engineering. He speaks with organizations every day that have been hacked, tricked into clicking on malicious links, and hit with ransomware. His goal is to help these organizations arm themselves with the proper tools and to protect various cyber threats so their employees are that extra layer of defense instead of a human liability. And again, that is really that human firewall that we're talking about. So with that, without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Jared. Jared, I'm going to stop sharing so you can share your screen and take it away.
Thanks. I appreciate the warm welcome there, and I'm excited to talk with everyone about some of the dangers of phishing, and more importantly, the ways to prevent having an issue, having a breach, so that your organization doesn't end up on the news. And Bill, can you see my screen okay?
Hang on, I do not see it yet.
You get one more second. We'll be going over some of the different data points when it comes to phishing industries, and then go into a little bit more of common attacks and things along those lines.
And we can see it now, Jared.
Okay, great. If there's any interruptions, just let me know. But anyways, starting with the first slide, going over some industries, and I'd be interested to see people on the call, any industries you are in. We did basically a phishing benchmark report of through a whole host of data here. We have over 65,000 customers, and one of the biggest benefits of that is we get so much feedback and information on the common threats that you're seeing, the common phishing emails, and obviously everyone's probably received a real phishing email, either themselves or someone in your family or a friend or coworker. And it's great to share that knowledge because it helps people to, again, recognize these threats and try to prevent them in the future. So in this particular data set, about 26,000 organizations, over 12 million users, And essentially, going through these 19 industries, wanted to see who was most at risk. And interestingly enough, for many years running, healthcare has been one of the top, organizations when it comes to click rate. What you're looking at here is on the very first, we like to send a baseline phishing test so that people can kind of see where they're starting at. Some organizations, maybe they've done training in the past, might be a little lower, but you want to get a benchmark of where people are starting. So that way, once you do start taking measures to prevent issues like training and educating people on different security topics, you can see people's click rate go down over time. You could tangibly see that. So in healthcare, about 32% and 1 to 249 employees will click on the first test. Medium, again, it is also healthcare, which is even a bigger risk because if there is a breach, you're talking about HIPAA violations, PHI, protected health information can get out there. So not only is it the cost of the breach and the downtime of fixing things and reimaging machines, but you're talking about lawsuits. Who wants to have their public health information released to hackers and being sold to people? So it could be a huge issue there. In the large space, enterprise space, about 1,000 employees and up, insurance, really scary number here. 53% would click on those tests, which is wild. If you have 1,000 employees, 500 would click on a targeted phishing email. Obviously, scary stuff, but again, the idea is educating people. To Bill's point earlier, encouraging the human firewall so people can be a strength as opposed to a liability. So another thing, another item here going over the initial phishing results. If you can go by industry, feel free to find yours on this list and pick it out. Again, a lot of them, it's a pretty tight data set as far as 25 to 30% to start, and then as you get larger, interestingly enough, the percentages of people clicking goes up as well. So the idea is, regardless of where you start with this phish-prone percentage, over time, as you start to educate people and test them with simulated phishing emails, that number goes down. And I'll show that later when I show a little bit on our platform. Moving on to essentially, what do you do with this information? It's one thing to know that this is a issue and that people are clicking on things, but what do we do to remedy this? So a few things you can do. Using real world attack methods. So one part of our platform is simulated phishing emails. It's a great way to mimic real attacks so that way people can identify them, and it's not, worst case scenario, you click on a fake simulated email and it's just a learning moment, as opposed to a real one. That $150,000 invoice that you thought was real is actually fake. That's going to be quite costly. So testing people ahead of time is a great way to see if they're also paying attention to the training that's been sent. So you send a fake email, if they click on it, they take remedial training, and then you send another one. Hopefully they don't click on that one. You can see people start to learn. Not doing this alone is another good one. So, it starts from all the way at the top, all the way to every person at the organization. A lot of people think, oh, I'm in accounting, I have nothing to worry about, or I am in sales and I have nothing to worry about. It doesn't matter if you're the CEO or the front desk person, you are a potential target for a phishing attack. And we'll talk about one later with MGM, where it was a help desk person who ended up costing them tens of millions of dollars. So involving everyone so that everyone's kind of a link in the chain is a great way to change the company culture so that way people can kind of see the risks and understand the risk and want to do their part to prevent any issues at the company. Not trying to train on everything is another good one. So, you don't want to overwhelm people with training. You want to get some very targeted, focused topics so that you can just learn the basics. How do I spot a phishing email? What is ransomware? What is vishing or voice phishing? So learning the terms and learning how to spot things is, you want to keep it simple. And then treating your program like a marketing campaign over here. So again, focusing on changing behavior rather than just telling staff what you'd like them to know. Basically giving them all the information they need, but focusing on conditioning their security reflexes. So again, making sure you're blasting this information to everyone so that they are an extra link in the chain and then making it relevant. So again, we're talking about MGM was a recent attack. I know some people in the past few years, Equifax was a big breach. Yahoo had a breach. The Colonial Pipeline had a massive incident. It's one thing to talk in hypotheticals of what could happen, but these are real issues that are happening every single day. And you turn on the news, and this person's been hit with, or this organization's been hit with a breach. It's cost them X amount of money, and again, people can be fired for that as well if they aren't paying attention to the training. Because again, if you cost the company millions of dollars due to negligence, that's going to look bad on both sides, the company as a whole and as an employee. So a few interesting things when I like to talk about social engineering, which as a broad umbrella term is the way people can be tricked into doing what someone wants. Phishing is the email version of that. But there are some interesting physical threats that hackers and the bad actors will try to do. So one of them is through USB drives or thumb drives. This was a post on LinkedIn. I thought it was a pretty interesting one where someone shared their father received a package. It looks like Microsoft Office here. Looks extremely legitimate, has everything you'd expect in this type of package, but it also had a USB drive. And sure enough, the second they plugged it in, they were hit with ransomware. We do have a test you can do on our platform where it's basically replicating the same thing. You download a file onto a USB drive, and you can just put them around your office or a break room and see who's willing to plug them in and open the file, which is an enormous security risk. You don't want people plugging in random USB drives. And there was a famous study done at a university, and they sprinkled about 300 of these USB drives around campus. And crazy enough, 98% were picked up, and more scary, 45% were plugged in. So you can imagine, that was just 300. If 150 computers were infected with ransomware, or even worse than just, and for those who don't know, ransomware is basically locking down your computer until you pay the hackers money to get your files back, which it's not even necessarily confirming that you'll get your money or your files back. Sometimes people say, yeah, pay me this, I'll give you your files, and they still don't get it. But anyways, aside from just ransomware, sometimes people will just essentially sit in the systems and view things and collect information over months and months when you don't even know that someone's basically in their emails. And those are the real dangerous ones, because then they can collect credit card informations and more information on what people are doing. But
Yeah.
USB drives, definitely a big issue. And what was that?
Yeah, Jared, I was just going to say on that same IBM report, they said, it takes on average 277 days to identify and remedy a breach, but the average to just identify it was 204 days. So you talk about, them in your system, tunneling
Mhm.
through your system and causing all kind of havoc, accessing your data, encrypting your backups. I mean, there's so much they can do, but like you say, when you find out there's a breach, it's usually too late.
100%. Yeah, and that's a great point, because also imagine how many passwords you can collect in 6 months. And then, like I said, when they do spring to action, they have all this information they've been collecting over months. So when they do say, "All right, alarm bells are starting to going off," we're gonna start trying to reset passwords and trying to, drain bank accounts. It's going to be rapid fire, and again, they have all that information ready to go. So definitely an issue.
Oh, yeah.
There's even power cords that I remember our late Kevin Mitnick used to talk about, where they had ransomware in them, and it looks as innocent as, hey, I want to charge my computer, hey, here, use my power cord, and there you go, infected with malware. So some pretty crazy stuff out there. But again, mentioning earlier, some of the attacks, MGM, if you haven't heard about it, in Las Vegas, it's per initial reports about $52 million in lost revenue. And again, usually when you see things on the news with figures, you can just tack a few, zeros or a few extra ones in there, because it's hard to quantify, again, all the downtime, all the resources invested. as well as, when you're talking about Las Vegas and people gambling every second of the day and placing bets. I mean, it is a massive attack. And you would think, when you see things on movies, it's people like, in hoodies trying to hack into a computer and ones and zeros, and it's usually way less sophisticated than that. This was a literal 10-minute phone call with the help desk. And, someone's impersonating someone and basically tricking them to give them the information, and then it shut down this massive organization. Um, there's I mentioned earlier when I was talking to Bill before the call. There's an event called DEF CON, and people are basically tasked with, it's a contest to see how quickly they can get passwords. And it's wild how, without any prior knowledge of this person, they would try to call into that person's bank. And one woman, she pretended that, my husband is out of town, and she had fake baby noise in the background. So the person on the phone, everyone wants to, their general, be helpful essentially. That's their first instinct. And within 2 minutes, she had the password to the bank. And again, if she was a bad actor, she could do whatever she wants with the information. So very scary stuff out there. But the biggest way to help prevent these issues is through knowledge, educating people. What is voice phishing? What are the common ways to spot these things, phishing, and so on? So that way, your organization doesn't go on the news like this one did. A few other things, BEC attacks, so business email compromise. A lot of people refer to it as CEO fraud. If you've ever seen emails where people are pretending to be someone's boss at an organization, what's crazy nowadays with social media is everyone wants to share every thought they have. Hey, I'm going on vacation. I'm, in the Bahamas and they're posting pictures, or, talking about their pets and their names and their siblings and their family members. You do a 5-10 minute search on someone on their Twitter or Instagram, and you can gather so much information where, if you do try to impersonate someone, it's, we call it spear phishing. It's a targeted attack as opposed to phishing, which is just kind of a generalized one. So with business email compromise, again, you can, if you saw on LinkedIn that this person is happy to be on their vacation, they email their employees saying, hey, I know I'm on vacation, but there are these gift cards we need for, one of these companies we just did a deal with. Can you please handle this? And, seems innocent enough, $500 gift cards. And before you know it, the boss comes back and says, hey, what happened? What happened when I was gone? They say, well, we took care of your gift cards. And they say, what gift cards? And that's kind of a sinking feeling, which is a very common one. Anything, this one here for gift purchase. But other ones, payroll diversion, anything with bank accounts, asking for mobile numbers, requesting assistance for urgent tasks or favors, which is one of, we call them red flags or social engineering indicators. A big one is giving a sense of urgency. When people are pressed for time, you'll see on game shows, things that would normally be incredibly easy, they make mistakes. And when you say, hey, I need this done in the next 5 minutes, people make mistakes. And that's kind of what the bad guys want. And the other ones you'd expect, wire transfers, W-2s, tax information, things along those lines. And then two that we had for return to office policy. If you're hybrid, if everyone's remote, if everyone's in the office, it doesn't matter. Like if everyone is in the office and you say, hey, we're all going fully remote, people are like, the first thing they do is impulsively click on things, even if it doesn't seem like that's a likely thing. So whether it's likely to be true or not likely, people click anyways. So going into the future, some things going forward, AI, if, for a lot of people, you've heard about ChatGPT and all the different methods that people are leveraging technology with AI. It's also going to be a huge attack vector for bad actors. This one is obviously a funny one, but there is a viral image of the Pope, and it looked like he had this designer jacket, and at a glance looks very legitimate. It is 100% fake, and this again isn't the most sinister example, but you can imagine when people are able to, I'll be talking about deep fakes in a second, impersonate people's, make it sound like their voices, or make it look like someone, like they're actually saying something on video. It can have huge real world consequences. This one I was talking about earlier, there was a hoax breaking into the Associated Press Twitter account talking about potential like terrorist attack. It caused the stock market to drop by 1%. People can obviously see have a lot of opinions about Elon Musk, but it's hard to know what's true and what's not nowadays. And there's so many people impersonating them, or saying things that can tank stocks, or hey, I'm having a giveaway for Teslas. And unfortunately, people fall for that every day. And again, it's a lot of times it might be bad grammar, or um, it's something that's like, oh, I would never fall for that. And that's by design. Hackers are specifically putting, grammar that doesn't make sense, because the people who are willing to fall for those things are willing to go even further, give bank account information, so on and so forth. This is a scary one. Again, I was talking about AI generated images. There's a place called thispersondoesnotexist.com. These 4 people you're seeing here do not exist. These are all purely created by AI. And it's a little easier to see when it's like a full body image, but just with things that you would see on like Instagram or Facebook, where it's kind of headshots, it is extremely convincing. So again, catfishing is one thing to do with fake people, but when you're talking about pretending to be fake employees or asking for wire transfers, it gets very scary when people can just make people out of thin air. So something to be on the lookout for. Again, there will be training each and every year with the new different attack vectors, but this is a huge one. And then one I will show in a second with a video is essentially there was a real video of former President Obama on the left, and then they, through AI, this organization created a video 100% AI generated. So on the left here, this is a real video. This is actually President Obama speaking. And on the right is 100% fake. If you're really eyeballing it, it does look a little funky, but if you're just eyeballing this and saying something that you think is wild, like people run with it on Twitter. No one likes to fact check. They just want to be the first to everything. And again, this can have major real world consequences when it's high tier political figures, people in business, or again, if you're doing a targeted phishing attack, even pretending to be someone's sibling or family member, if they have access to create these type of things, I mean, that could be a very convincing attack, especially for people who aren't as IT savvy. I had an unfortunate real incident with my grandma. She's obviously older, not as IT savvy, and someone pretended to be my brother and said that he was on vacation in Mexico. I needed whatever it was, $1,500, $2,000. And imagine if it sounded like him with his voice, which is possible, or imagine it was a video call and it kind of looked like this, it would have been even more convincing. But even so, lucky enough, she didn't fall for it and ended up calling me after. She knows I'm the phishing guy. I work at the company that has to do with hoaxes and attacks and things. And I obviously told her that it was bogus and not to worry about it. But going forward, again, this is just the early stages. If you refer to like CGI back in the 80s and 90s, it was fine, but you look at it nowadays and it's incredibly convincing. So imagine, the technology we have today, imagine it 10 years from now, 15 years from now, it's going to get more and more convincing. So again, you want to make sure you are educating people ahead of time. But anyways, I just wanted to go and talk a little bit more about our organization as well. So I will go very quickly on, again, who we are, what we do, and then I'll be happy to show a little bit of our platform as well. Some of these I might skip through, but so know before, we're the world's largest integrated security awareness training and simulated phishing platform. I mentioned that we have over 65,000 customers. And again, all different industries, because if your organization can receive a phishing email and has email, you're a potential target. And the bad guys do not care what industry you are in. If they can get money from you for a quick buck, they will do so. So the idea, obviously, I've been harping on it a bunch, is people and end user behavior. So it was mentioned earlier, it doesn't matter how much device security, network security infrastructure you have in place, firewalls, antivirus, that's all fantastic and encouraged. But if you're neglecting your people, they are your last line of defense. So if an email does get through your filters, or if someone just has a phone call, again, you want to make sure these people are trained and tested so they know what to do. So the general idea of what we say is, you do kind of that baseline phishing test to see what percentage of people click on the first test, and then you start training them. Again, how do I spot phishing emails? What are the common scams? And then over time, you just keep phishing them over and over. And as new hires come on, they get phished as well. And inevitably, over time, you will see people start to learn and the click rate going down. There's some other add-on items as well. I won't go way into the weeds on this, but the idea with PhishER Plus is, if you have a lot of people in your organization who are getting these phishing emails, we have something called our Phish Alert button, or PAB, to report the messages. Some people don't have a set routine essentially when they get a suspicious message. Who do I send this to? How do I send this to them? Do I take a screenshot? It kind of simplifies things because you just get the email and you click a button, it gets the right people. But the idea with PhishER Plus is once you do report the message, if it is not one of our fake tests, it gets sent to a team to review them. And there's machine learning that will automatically tag things as likely threats or likely spam. And then this item here, Phish Rip, if there is a threat, you can remove it from people's inboxes. And Phish Flip is you can take the real phishing email, replace it with a fake version of it, and see who would have clicked, which is obviously a great way to test people. This was an actual phishing email that came to our company, and if someone had clicked on it, that could have been bad. So we want to test who would have clicked on it, as well as some other items in here. Global block list all of our PhishER customers. If they block certain domains and find threats, our team reviews it, adds it to a global block list. So essentially, is crowdsourcing threat intelligence to help keep other PhishER customers secure, and global phish rep. All of our PhishER customers, when they're removing threats, same thing. We evaluate it, say it's a threat, and then you can have those removed, the same day, essentially. A few other things. I kept talking about the average phish prone percentage for our organizations. It is around 33%. So about a third will click on that first test. But over a year or through a year, the average goes down to about 5%. And we have plenty of organizations that are 1%, 0.5%, but obviously the idea is mitigating that risk as much as possible. Less ransomware, less malware, less cyber theft, and just keeping security top of mind. When it comes to the training we have, there's over 34 different languages. So if you need to take training in Spanish or French or German, you can do so. There's different styles of content. So, if your company wants some fun, engaging training, there's a Netflix style show, there's games, there are cartoons. It's kind of whatever's going to fit your company culture. You want people to feel encouraged to take the training. You want it to be a little more entertaining. We have those options. And a learner app as well. So a lot of people, they're busy, they're remote or hybrid. If they have a phone, they can take the training. And again, a little 5-minute training here. You can just do it on your lunch break. Makes it easier for people to take their training. We showed the Forrester Wave earlier, but happy to be a leader in this space. And again, there's some other add-on products as well. Compliance Plus is if you have any compliance or HR needs. So on the compliance side, PCI compliance for credit cards. I mentioned HIPAA if you're in healthcare. On the HR side, sexual harassment training, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have training available there as well. But that's a little bit on that. So I'll just give, again, I'm not going to go into the weeds on every single feature, but I just want to give you an idea of kind of what the platform looks like and some of the metrics available. So I'll cover a little bit of our phishing and a little bit of our training. So essentially, as an administrator, every organization will get assigned a risk score based on how often people fail the phishing tests and how much training they're taking. So over time, you can see that risk score going down as people click on less things and take more training. And each individual user gets assigned a risk score based on that as well. So you can assign training based on risk score. The phishing test, you can see how many people clicking, replying, QR codes. We have QR code phishing scams, which are prevalent nowadays. You can test people, see if they would scan that. Um, a few other ones, data entered, so you can do fake login pages. Click here to go to LinkedIn or Instagram and see who would put in their credentials. And then again, with the fish alert button, how many people are reporting the fake emails and the potential real phishing emails. So yeah, just to give you an idea on the phishing side, and I'll show the training to kind of wrap up. With our phishing templates, we do want to replicate what is in the wild, and we want to stay current with things. So we have over 24,000 pre-built phishing templates, but these are all customizable as well. So if you look on the left side, there's different categories like banking and current events and healthcare. If we go to current events, again, these are the things that you will see on the news. Girl Scout cookies, this is a good one, honestly, all year round. Everyone loves Girl Scout cookies. It has a QR code to scan. But see a few of the other ones. Let's see, Idalia during when hurricanes were hitting. I know this very well, being from Florida. Unfortunately, when there are natural disasters, the first thing that happens is there are scams. Donate to this fund, and that again, people want to do the right thing and think they're helping, and a lot of them are scams. So, this Hawaii relief fundraiser, for example. Again, it looks great as is, but it can be customized. So if you did want to change the words or change, maybe the domain it's coming from, you can do so to make it a little more convincing. This is also good for those CEO fraud attempts, pretending to be someone's boss. You can just put your domain in here, and it looks like it's coming from your domain. But then again, maybe you make the reply to address different, which is another one of these red flags we talk about. It looks like it's coming from my domain, but the reply to is some random person at a Gmail account. That looks a little weird. Alarm bells should go off. So lots of phishing emails, again, customizable as well. Security hints and tips, again, educating people, things about passwords, unexpected emails, staying safe on social media. These are just things that people should keep in mind. And then the landing pages. So when people click on the phishing emails, what do they see? Lots of options. So again, I mentioned Facebook and LinkedIn and Office 365, but you can go ahead and it will give them, this landing page. And then if they do put in their information, oops, you clicked on a simulated phishing test. So not only did they click on the link, but they also put in their credentials. So again, there's some fun options in here. Where it's got like a silly video if you fail, as well as educational ones like I mentioned them earlier, SEI, social engineering indicators. Someone fails a phishing test, and then it says, oops, you clicked. But more importantly, here's what you clicked on, and here are some of those red flags that you missed. Again, spoofing domains, pretending to be someone's domain. That is a huge one to look for. Change your password immediately. It has a sense of urgency. Again, I said earlier, that is a huge red flag that comes up in a lot of phishing emails. Make sure you're hovering over links. Make sure it's, if I think this is going to facebook.com, it should say facebook.com on the bottom left of my screen. If it doesn't, alarm bell should be going off. So lots of options there. And then with the phishing campaigns, you just decide how often you want these sent. So every other week, once a month. You go ahead and just choose some of those categories, and it will send a different email to a different user at a different time of day, which is very nice because one person gets this Microsoft 365 email. First thing they want to do is tell everyone, hey, don't click on that, it's fake, which is good. You honestly want people telling their neighbors, but it does ruin the test in that sense. So to help get better results, one person gets one Monday pretending to be Microsoft 365, but then Friday afternoon, someone gets one from Instagram or supposedly from Instagram. So it keeps someone on their toes. They don't know what it's going to look like or what it's going to, when it's going to show up. And we also have AI-driven phishing, artificial intelligence-driven agent phishing, where people start to get a profile. So like, if I failed a Burger King email at 12 and a McDonald's email at 12:30, I'm probably getting a Chick-fil-A email at 12:45. It essentially starts to do more targeted attacks, which again, people start to learn and they start clicking on less things. You want to kind of ramp up the difficulty. have AI help you do that. And then, anyone who fails, you put them in a certain group, and when they fail, they'll get auto enrolled in training. And that is it. Once a month, every other week, whatever you decide, people get those phishing emails, and you see who fails in the first few hours, who fails each day, who fails by IP location, and then specifically what they did. Who opened it, who clicked it, who scanned the QR code, so on and so forth. So it's a little bit on phishing. I'll just show a little bit of the training to wrap up, so people get an idea of, phishing. Again, the whole idea with phishing is finding that there's an issue and who is susceptible to these attacks. You're not really doing anything about it until you actually educate them. So the training in our mod store, our training module store, is probably the most important part. So that way people can learn. So, if you want a training module with questions, if you want a game, a video, posters, all these different options, all the different topics you want to narrow it down, ransomware, gift cards, internet use, passwords, and here. Again, I mentioned all the different languages. However long you want the training to be, you want it to be really quick, a little 2-minute training, or maybe a little more robust 15-minute training. You can adjust that. And then again, yeah, there are quite a few things in here with different styles of training. I actually want to show one up here. I mentioned a Netflix style show. It is called Inside Man, and my favorite series that we offer, and a lot of our customers' favorite. It says season 5 because it's so popular. Where it's fine to send people training. Hey, this is what ransomware is. Answer these questions. But these are 7-8 minute episodes that follow a story, just like a Netflix style show, and talk about an entertaining way to learn about security. It's, again, we took it to Cannes Film Festival and it won an award. So people have been asking for it every year, and we've given them 5 seasons of it. But again, if you're an organization that doesn't want that, they want something kind of check a box, we have that too. But it's important to have those options. And then essentially, the users get sent the training, and very simply, they'll go to training up here, and whatever they've been assigned will pop right up, and they can go ahead and take it. So it's and this in Spanish, which is also a good point. You can change it so they can, again, read it in their native tongue. But they go to the training, pops right up, pick up where you left off, and that's all they have to do. And then if you want to make it a little more fun, you can set up leaderboards, encouraging people to take training, sales versus accounting. Whoever finishes training first gets a gift card, gets a pizza party. You can do that. There's badges people can learn to kind of gamify thing to, again, encourage people to take the training. And optional library as well. Like maybe you want them to take these 4 things. They're mandatory, but we recommend you learning a little bit more about social media. Maybe you work at a social media organization, and some helpful topics to stay safe. So that is the gist of it. Bill, did you want me to go any more detail on the platform, or just open up to questions? Whatever works for you.
If you want to go a couple minutes more, that's fine. We have a little bit more time.
Sure. I'm going to show a couple more things. So again, that was phishing and training. I mentioned earlier USB drops. You can do that as well. So again, you go to USB drive test, create new USB drive test, and again, you call it whatever you want. Maybe I don't know, parking lot USB drop, and create it. All you need to do is just download one of the files onto the USB drop, or onto the USB, so a Word document, PowerPoint file, and then you'll see again the details of who opens it and where they opened it, and that could be a good way to test people, especially if you're in. I've worked with a few libraries; they use a lot of USB drives, schools, anything like that. They are high targets for that type of scam. And then physical QR codes. If anyone was watching the Super Bowl last year, there was a ton of these where it's just no context, just kind of, hey, here's a QR code and scan it. And a lot of times those are going to be innocent, but people get comfortable assuming anytime they see a QR code, it's okay to scan. All it takes is one person to just throw up a QR code with something malicious on it, or a fake login page, and a credential harvesting page, and it's an easy way to get people people's information. I was traveling with my wife to Disney the other day, and sure enough, there was just one QR code while you're waiting in line at a ride, and it didn't really seem like it was connected to anything. And I can't imagine how many, thousands of people might have scanned that. And if it was some random person putting up something, malicious, then what easier way to get people's information? But you can do the same thing, physical QR codes. So you put this around the office and see who would scan them. Or the office is obviously one environment, but maybe I don't know, somewhere else close to the office and see who would do that. Let's see a few more things, maybe with, actually, let's just show a little bit of reports. So the key thing when people fail tests and take training, you want to see who did what and when they did it. So there are all these pre-canned reports, risk score, when, again, how people are failing, training, executive reports as well. C-levels, they just want to see the nuts and bolts. I want to see who is completing training. I want to see how our risk score is doing. I want to see our fishbone percentage. And just a few basic things. You can go ahead and have an executive over, high level over your reports and schedule this to be sent, monthly, quarterly to whoever. So we'll send this one to management. We'll also get maybe a compliance report sent annually to HR, and we'll send a quarterly, phishing report to maybe the IT team. And it's a good way, again, where you don't have to be manually doing all these things. It can be automated, so you're getting those phishing emails. And let's see, we'll do one more on ASAP. This is pretty cool. Automated Security Awareness Program. A lot of people don't know where to start. At KnowBe4, we have what's called customer success managers, CSMs, who will help, with recommendations of when you should phish people and how you should phish people and when you should train them and how much training. But if you really want to go in the weeds, this automated security awareness program, you just fill out a bunch of questions. How often do you think you want to test people, and what type of industry are you, and how many attacks do you see? And it basically spits out this very comprehensive list of everything you could possibly want to do. And it's dated. Again, you don't have to go these extremes, but it gives a lot of ideas. So create a training campaign for the people who failed the test. That's a good idea. Create ongoing phishing periodically. So again, people can kind of keep them on their toes. Some policies. So if you want a security policy acknowledgement, you want a new hire policy acknowledgement, and then set up a scam of the week campaign. There's one of the phishing categories we have called scam of the week, and it is the number one, most popular scam that we are seeing reported to us. So it's a good way to keep people aware of that. And then the last one I'll mention is the security culture one. We have a test that people can take to, it asks them, hey, if you saw someone that you didn't recognize, not using their finger scanner to get into the office, how would you handle it? And you basically get a feel for the culture, your company culture, and how not just savvy they are in different security measures, but how willing they are to do certain things. And this could, give you an idea of the deficiencies. So if people are lacking in some areas, you can send them targeted training as well. Anything else in there, Bill, you want me to run through a few more minutes?
The only thing I want you to mention, if you don't mind, for all of our attendees today, we're going to make a free phish testing test available, as well as our cybersecurity kit. So maybe if you go over that, and what I'll do while you review that, Jared, I'll just chat out the links to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously in the main phishing platform, there's, again, 24,000 templates to choose from and all this different training and whatnot. With our free one-time phishing test, it is a bit of a more limited version, but it still gets good data from your users. So it's essentially choose from, I think it's maybe 3 or 4 templates to choose from. And then one for social media, and then one that has people click, and one where it has people reply. But you just choose from a few templates. It sends them all out at once, and it's a pretty basic attack. But the idea is, even without any targeting from your organization, you put in your information, and then the users you want to test, if they're willing to fail that, a very, very basic test, then it could be kind of eye-opening where, again, some people might think, my users are pretty savvy. Maybe we'll be 3%, 4%. And when it ends up being, 20, 25%, it could be a reason of, hey, maybe we should be doing a little more to educate our users. So the free phishing test is a great way to get that tangible data, not just, I assume it's going to be a certain percentage. You can actually see exactly what it is. So that's a great first step. And then let me pull up our Cybersecurity Awareness Month kit. You might have seen it in our mod store, but October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and this is a great way to give some resources to your internal employees. So there are a few things in here: a free video, some hints and tips, some posters. It's all Halloween themed to make it kind of fun. I'll see if I can actually even find the one that I downloaded. Um, but essentially, again, it's a good way for people to get some digestible, bite-sized pieces of information, so that way they can learn about the threats out there. And there are, especially with holiday season coming up, there's going to be quite a few scams. So it's kind of good to get ahead of that as well.
Okay, well, thanks, Jared. And again, I chatted out the links for those two, the test as well as the resource kit. We'll also be emailing them out to everyone that attended today's webcast, so you don't have to worry about copying the links down. Okay, Jared, you want to stop sharing and then I'll switch over? Okay, perfect. Thanks, Jared. That was great information. We really appreciate you presenting.
And did we lose Bill there? Was that just on my end? The chat. Did anyone else
I think we
lose
might.
Bill?
I think we
Okay.
might have. It's
Okay.
This is Mike. I think we might have. We'll let him get back in.
Yeah. Yeah. If there was, so first off, if there was any questions, by all means, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm happy to answer them. Mike as well, if we had any pre-call questions as well, happy to get those answered.
Yes.
While people.
Let me grab that. I think Bill. I had sent that to Bill because he was gonna share them, and then now if
Yeah,
Bill
I think
is
I
off.
remember. Well, I think there was.
Yeah, go with
three.
yes, go ahead.
And it looks like you might be joining in just a second.
I was just gonna say, let me make sure I can get Bill back in here.
Hey, my apologies there.
I jumped in with absolutely nothing to help, so I'm glad you came back.
My apologies. Let me try that again. Let me share my screen, and you guys just let me know when you can see it. And
when you're there, we could do the if you have some questions, Bill.
yes,
Q&A session. But yeah, take your time.
Okay, my apologies there. I did want to mention an interesting stat, and this is really what Jared predicted when he was talking about MGM, and I think the cost you were showing, Jared, on your slide was the cost and lost business was 55 million. I read an article yesterday, and this officially came out from MGM. They reported this in the public. Their loss right now, and it's not all of their loss, but they're up to $110 million. And
there you go, almost double.
Right.
I bet you 6 months from now, it's going to keep trickling up too. This is going to be on and on and on.
You don't know what impact it had to their brand, right? I mean, and what impact it's going to have from future business. But then you look at fines, you look at lawsuits. I mean, there's so much exposure there. And yeah, they have cyber insurance up to 200 million, but still, it's a huge number. So anyway, but thanks, Jared, again. That was great information. And again, the importance of having that human firewall and how important it is. You can have best laid plans, the greatest tools, greatest procedures, but again, that number one attack vector is your people through phishing attempts, and again, that's 41%. So again, really important stuff, and we really appreciate you sharing that today, Jared. Okay, well, let's keep on going here because I know we got a few things to cover. I'd ask that you please take a moment to complete the survey for today's webcast. Just take a minute. I chatted that out in our links. You'll see that there. If you could just take a quick minute and fill that survey out, we really appreciate that. Okay, I did want to mention also, let me go to the next screen here. And I'll chat out this information as well. Jared did mention the free phishing test and resource kit. That is in the chat, but we'll also email that to you so you'll have that. But also, if you just like to set up a free consultation to discuss, how we can help address any of your cybersecurity needs, you can reach out to me on the contact information below. I'll also chat out that information to you, but it'll also be in the email as well. A couple of other quick items before we get into our Q&A. We have lots of great educational resources out there. Webcasts like this, we do have lots of recorded webcasts out there, and they're available on demand on our website. But we're constantly doing webcasts, so great resource out there. We do have a cybersecurity newsletter that we put out monthly. Lots of great content out on YouTube. We're always speaking at industry events, and then we do have our on-site and virtual workshops as well, and those are all complimentary. I do want to mention, if you'd like to stay connected with us on any of our social media channels, you can do so there. Okay, so let's move into our questions and answers. And I see we already have several questions submitted online, but if you would like to submit a question, you can do so through that Q&A icon on the Zoom menu. So let's move into our questions. And our first question comes in from Ken, and the question is, Jared, what would you recommend as the standard phishing and training schedule for most organizations?
Sure. So yeah, our customer success managers have a pretty set routine or cadence they like. We recommend at least once a month phishing. Some people always say, maybe let's just do quarterly or maybe biannually, but the whole idea is you don't really get enough data to make a decision on, the people who are likely to click just having one or two tests. So the benefit of doing monthly is you'll have 12 points of data, which will definitely give you, an idea of who those clickers are, those click happy people. It also helps when it comes to training. If they're failing certain types of phishing emails, you can train them on that. Like if it was a fake login page, we'll send training on it. Or if it had to do with domain spoofing, we'll send you some training on domain spoofing. The whole idea is the more data you get, the more targeted the training can be. And so once every month phishing, and then training for every single employee, at least one comprehensive training module. So front desk person gets the same training as the CEO. So that way, again, everyone has at least a little bit of knowledge they're armed with. Then the people who fail the phishing test should take remedial training, and then maybe a new topic once every quarter. So nothing too crazy, one email a year. It might end up being like, anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour of training a year. It's not going to interrupt people's day. So, you're taking away productivity. It's enough to give them the right information, but not enough to completely, take away from their day-to-day activities.
Thanks, Jared, and thanks, Ken, for that question. Our next question comes in from Julie, and the question is, what are some of the most common scams you hear about?
Sure. So I mentioned a few earlier, but gift card scam, I get a lot of that where they're like, hey, have you heard of this one with gift cards? I'm like, yeah, once or twice, probably every day. I think the biggest thing is like with some scams like cryptocurrency scams and Bitcoin and whatnot, people have to create a wallet and they have to be at least a little technically savvy to like transfer things. With a gift card scam, it's very, very simple because like once those are filled out and that information is transmitted, like that money's gone. So once someone drains it, it's hard to track. and it's very easy. So that's a really common one. CEO fraud is another big one because, again, sometimes it happens to be connected to the gift cards as well. But CEO fraud, where it's pretending to be their boss, or really anyone at the company pretending to be finance, so a trusted source. So that way they're more willing to give up information. So gift card one, CEO fraud. I think that's probably number one, number two.
Okay, well, thanks, Jared, and thanks, Julie, for your question. Our next question comes in from Upin, and the question is, what do you think phishing attacks will look like in the coming years?
Sure. So yeah, from that initial slide deck, AI, our CEO is just yelling to the rooftops how important that is for us to be aware of what's happening with that, especially ChatGPT, because back in the day you have the Nigerian prince emails, and it's very easy to understand and identify this as a phishing email. But with ChatGPT, it can do regional dialects. It can really it just sounds so legitimate, like you're having a conversation with someone. So if you're having a multi-pronged phishing attack, where it's trying to get a response from you and it's going back and forth, it's not as easy as it used to be. So things like ChatGPT, generative AI, as well as, again, things with deep fakes, it's just going to get more and more convincing, and having that knowledge is kind of the biggest weapon there. So I would say AI and things like ChatGPT. There's going to be a lot more scams in the coming years.
Okay, well, thanks, Jared, and thanks, Upin, for your question. And thanks, everyone, for your questions today and participating today. Did want to, before we conclude here, did want to mention the free phishing test, the resource kit. We'll email that out to everyone that signed up for today's webcast. You don't have to copy the links down. They are in the chat if you do want to copy them down. But if you do want to follow up, if you want to discuss how we might be able to help address any of your cybersecurity needs, you can just contact me at the information you'll see on the screen. I'll also email out my contact information as well. And with that said, Jared, any closing comments?
No, just want to say thanks for everyone for listening. Obviously, I'm passionate about the topic. You could say, not fearful, but I'm more excited to see what the bad guys are coming out with, because we like to stay one step ahead of them. So it's going to be interesting what people come out with, and I'm happy to be a part of an organization that helps protect organizations against those bad actors. And again, appreciate everyone's time, and appreciate Bill, you and Mike as well for inviting me over for this.
Thanks, Jared. We most appreciate it as well, having you here. Great information. I hope it was helpful for everyone. If you do get a chance, please complete the survey. Again, these are educational webcasts. We want to make sure we're getting the right information across to you. But thanks again, everyone, for attending our presentation, and have a great day.